Hello, I'm FPX and I recently received a fairly weird comment because someone asked if I could make a video explaining how guerrilla warfare worked, which was pretty odd given the nature of this channel, and I was considering responding with just a joke about how it's when two monkeys fight over a banana, but then I realized, you know what, Minecraft is the game where no one can tell you what you can and cannot do. It's the game where anything is possible, and if that doesn't include making a guide on how guerrilla warfare works, if that doesn't involve using unusual and irregular tactics inside of a Minecraft minigame, then I don't know what it does include, which is why today's video is a guide on how to win the game Skywars, one of Minecraft's oldest and most popular, using the tactics of guerrilla warfare. Or more realistically, I hope this video makes any sense whatsoever, because it probably isn't going to, but let's explain exactly what guerrilla warfare is, because most people when they think that, they think of like, oh yeah, it's like the Vietnamese people in the Vietnam War, which is why even though America is the world's largest military, they managed to lose a war against a country which isn't even in the top 10, after sustaining huge losses, right? So how exactly is that possible? How does, tactics, how do really strange tactics too, ones that don't make sense on paper, lead to being able to defeat the world's largest superpower? Oh, you can change your treasure chests in this game mode now, so I'm going to set them to be jungle treasure chests, which feels thematic given what we're doing today. Although actually, I'm trying to prove that it's not all about jungle warfare, so we'll have whales instead, because we're going to be fighting over whales today, which I mean, just, okay, that's Minecraft now, I guess. Okay, nice. But yeah, this video should actually help you with your Skywars game for when things like this happen and for when you need to defeat someone that seems significantly more powerful than you. I should lose this engagement. If we go head to head, if I start doing that right now, I will lose, right? This is a bad idea. We can all agree that. So how exactly do I win this conflict? And there are a few ways you can be a better strategician than the other side. This is most of what made Napoleon so famous. And, you know, most of the generals of like the big major battles of like the 20th, 19th, 18th centuries are because, the technology, the strategies got way better. This is actually what made the Romans good too. Being better at fighting than the other side is a way you can win. And you know what, let's prove that that is possible right now. Let's just go in for this, shall we? Let's go. Because all we have to do is make sure we keep circling. He's going to be looking directly at me, and he's going to make mistakes of not, oh, I died, not him. Never mind. But sometimes, no matter how great your strategy is, no matter how good your tactics are, you're still going to lose. Even if you fight better, like I would say I did just there, because I had worse armor, because he had a better sword, I still managed to lose that engagement, right? You all saw it. I landed more hits, but it didn't matter because he had an iron sword with enchantments compared to my stone sword. And this happens in real life all the time. Sometimes, you fight countries that have iron swords when you have just a wooden sword. Sometimes they've got diamond swords and you're fighting with your fists. So how do you win in these situations? And there are so many different strategies that have been invented over history, such as blitzkrieg or divide and conquer, or the idea of fighting, you're having two enemies fight each other, so you can, obviously like fight the winner, and you can use these in Skywars. You can rush your neighboring enemies if you really want to. You can make two enemies fight each other, so you can fight the victor. There are so many things you can use in Skywars, but one of the most interesting examples is guerrilla warfare, because it only really applies to this game mode. And I know what you're thinking already, like, okay, Toycat, you're getting an overactive imagination here, like, you're just kind of making up something and saying it goes there. It's not real guerrilla warfare inside Skywars, but I think it actually is, because guerrilla warfare is mostly a defensive strategy. Unlike all the other things I just listed, which are great ways to invade another country, which are great ways to attack someone else, guerrilla warfare is one of the few examples of being able to defend yourself using irregular warfare, by creating a new strategy for defense only that works surprisingly well if you have an objective to defend, which is something in most game modes you have a clear set point that if an enemy breaches once, you die, you have to fight them, so you lose. I mean, being engaged in a defensive war is usually bad for the side defending, because there are only so many advantages you can get, and also all of the things you value are also the things you defend. Your production is one of the things you have to defend, etc, etc. It makes it very hard to fight a war. So how do you fight a defensive war and actually manage to overcome huge odds against a player who would otherwise beat you? And this is where the concept of guerrilla warfare is born. If you know you're going to lose a conflict, you make it very hard for the conflict to happen, and you make sure when it does happen, it's on your terms. Take these two people fighting over here. This guy's going to stack up, and then the other guy is presumably going to knock him down, and he's going to get a big advantage from the fact that this guy is trying very hard to make a fight happen, and this person's trying very hard not to make a fight happen. It's a pretty great example, right? I think it'd be a better example if it didn't remind me so much of like the building things you see in Fortnite, but you get the point. This guy still trying to avoid a fight. That guy still trying to his very, very best to get there regardless. Also, my God. I should have been focusing on my defense, but I was focusing on the defense of somewhere else. So what we're gonna do real quick is we're gonna stop that guy getting over here. No, man, okay. This is a great example. This is an enemy who is much better equipped than me, right? This is an enemy who is able to fight. Okay, oh, no, come on. And just like that, he managed to fight me on his terms, not on my terms. Or in fact, the fact that he managed to fight on any terms whatsoever, even though I was running away, it meant I was guaranteed to die because he had full diamond armor. Same situation happens exactly again. So let's talk about how we can use our defensive strategies, use the defensive strategies of that guy, but let's use them ourselves to guarantee we win rather than to guarantee someone else wins. Because in Skywars, there's one valuable area that you can hold value in, even if you don't necessarily control it yourself, you can have a lot of value in guaranteeing that no one else controls it, and that is the center ground. This is where the most chests are. Usually they're better chests as well, so they can contain diamond armor sometimes, like you just saw me pick up there. This is the best area on the whole map, and you can use Guerrilla Warfare, you can use irregular forms of warfare to guarantee your control, or at the very least, your enemy's lack of control over this area, and let me show you how. Because this person right over here, he wants to come and get me, right? He wants to come and kill me because it's Skywars. That's what people want to do. He wants this up here and he also wants to kill me. So we've just got to make it very tricky for him to do either of those things. We've got to make sure he doesn't feel like he controls the area, but also we've got to make sure that he can't kill me to get control of the area. He's a stronger enemy than me. He's got full diamond armor. I'm guessing a decent sword too. So we don't let him engage me in combat. Instead, what we do is we continuously force him around, hopefully until someone else comes and gets him, or even if someone else doesn't get him, he's going to get very, very tired and bored of the idea that he can't fight me. I'm like 10 blocks up above him, so he runs around and he does his thing. He knows I'm looking at it the whole time, and oh, are you going to try and stack up here? You think that's so smart? And it's not so smart, is it? And then, again, you can see the fight was on my terms, not on his. I attacked him, but he can't continue fighting because I ended the fight immediately afterwards. The whole point of Guerrilla Warfare is to make sure that you are the one in control of the engagement, so you can only have engagements where you're not only, advantageous, but you're seriously advantaged over the enemy. This is how it was possible for, think about the world's largest military power to try to invade a country, and then for them to realize, like, oh no, we literally cannot do this, even though they weren't in the top 10 or the top 20 military powers, because all they had to do was make it tricky to fully invade and also keep fighting on their own terms. So you're picturing jungles and stuff right now because, again, that's what most people picture, because Vietnam is the most famous and recent example, besides perhaps the Iraq, Middle East stuff you can maybe name. But one of the better examples, in my opinion, would probably be the American Revolutionary War. I think it's also a good counterexample because you might be thinking like, oh, they use them to fight dishonorably. But no, if you think about the American Revolutionary War, the whole point of that war, you might think like, oh, it was a brave fight for independence, and it definitely was. Like, the people there didn't want to be taxed. I mean, independence was kind of like a secondary goal added later on during the conflict. But most of the, the goal of the wars was not to be like, yeah, let's destroy Britain, we're going to take them over. No, the whole point of the war was to make it really annoying for, the monolithic empire that was the British Empire to keep control over America, and that's why it's one of the earlier and more famous examples of a guerrilla warfare situation. Also, I think I need a bow to effectively do this, so I'm actually going to jump down while these two guys fight. I'm just going to jump down, I'm going to get myself a bow from one of these chests. Please give me a bow, or some eggs, I guess that'll work. And now we're going to stack ourselves right back up out of it. Oh, the guy insulted the other guy saying he has a nice PC. That's never an insult I've seen before in Skywars. If you don't know, on Bedrock, you can play on both PC, mobile, and console. I guess that's all free, not both. But you can play on different platforms, and I guess that guy is not happy with the situation. So yeah, my plan right here to win this entire game, because there's only 2 of us left right now, is using Guerrilla Warfare. Because Guerrilla Warfare also works as denial of resources, but we can win the entire war, like the American Revolutionary War, or like the Vietnam War, or even like it was referenced as early back as the Sun Tzu tactics, because all we've got to do is repeatedly make it annoying for them to engage to the point where it's politically unfeasible for them to continue. And obviously in a Skywars game, there aren't actual political considerations. They aren't like, oh no, what if the spectators think poorly of me? What if they think that I'm being a real jerk for trying to kill this other guy? Because again, it's a Minecraft minigame. The explicit purpose is for us to kill each other, right? Also, let's knock them off there, shall we? Oh, look at that. Can't be going in those chests while I'm up here. But yeah, the explicit purpose of this game is, of course, to kill each other. So you can't get political sympathy in that way, but there is another limitation, and that's someone's willingness to continue. We want to exploit that willingness to continue, because in a guerrilla warfare situation, usually you try and get the populace, the country that's being liberated, as you might say, depending on which side of an ocean you live on. But you might say, oh yeah, there's a liberated population. We've got to free them from their oppressive leaders. Most irregular warfare campaigns rely on getting popular support via the guerrilla warfare. I mean, the occupying force has to be there a really long time, and it makes a lot of the locals very unhappy, because most people are not happy with the idea of having a occupying power in their territory for a significant amount of time, right? That's not a thing that is hugely popular in most parts of the world, which is why we can afford to spend so long to only hit this guy once. We've hit him precisely once with an egg, so we dealt no damage, and we're going to do it again now. Even though we're spending a very long time between each hit, because we make each hit so devastating, we can actually knock him off and do a lot of damage if we do this right, just like that. Because each hit is so devastating, it means we're actually winning the conflict in terms of like for like. We're dealing more casualties to him than he is to me, because I can't sustain many casualties before I die. In fact, I think one hit off here and then I'm basically dead. So yeah, what we're doing here is we're using control of the engagement as my victory strategy. I'm making it so he can't engage me on his terms, and he's going to get frustrated with that, because it seems like I'm winning, even though he must know in his heart of hearts that he is... Oh, no, 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 oh, no, okay. Even though he knows in his hearts of hearts that I clearly shouldn't be winning, this clearly isn't a fair fight, he just has to keep on going, and eventually that's going to wear on him. Either he's going to get frustrated and make a bad decision, one which I can exploit or kill him with even, or he's going to get bored and he's going to give up. Because although there are no political considerations in Skywars, you've got to remember there is your time that you are wasting when you continue a game, and we're going to see if this guy is willing to waste all of his time to keep this one going. So I haven't won the war yet, but bear in mind, I haven't won any significant battles, but yet I have made the enemy retreat from my territory, and this is the best territory on the map, so I can actually, if I play this smart, which you better believe I'm going to, I can actually go get myself some more stuff, including a bow, because I'd really like to harass him in that way. I think that'd be fun, personally. So yeah, we're going to get some stuff while he runs away, and this maybe gives you an idea of why fighting guerrillas is And this maybe gives you a good idea of why fighting guerrillas is so annoying. Not just the real guerrillas, but also guerrilla insurgents, because, like, oh man, like, we go through all this effort, and then they can restock that fast. Because I'm less unwieldy, because I'm on the defensive right here, it's way easier for me to get back in control than it is for him. And yeah, we're going to try and knock him off right now. Again, we can actually decisively win this if he just makes one big mistake, which is why we're going to bait him into making one big mistake. Oh, actually, wait, maybe we won't even have to wait for the outlast. We might be able to win this outright, which would be cool. But again, winning this outright is a bonus for us. It's necessary for him, but for me, I'm having fun here. I'm talking about military tactics on the internet. But this guy is just wasting his day away slowly. I mean, it was lunchtime about 20 minutes ago, pal. You sure you don't want to get a snack instead? I mean, who cares about Minecraft minigames? I mean, when it's over, right? I might actually let him hit me a bunch. I've got... Oh, no, I don't have enough food for that. But yeah, you can. There's a lot of fun things you can take advantage of. I'm not going to be taking advantage of most of them today. So even though, there are two famous examples of this in the American Revolutionary War and Vietnam, and again, I've mentioned the Middle East stuff, but I feel like it's too recent, and people are going to have a clouded judgment, so we won't talk about that too much, or someone's going to be like, but the oil, low, and that's just not a fun thing to have on the internet. So instead, we'll just say, like, oh yeah, when you think of the major examples, you think of, like, oh yeah, these are situations where, it's kind of like what I'm saying, where you just make it really hard to engage, and then when you do engage, you make sure it's on your terms. You think of the situation like with the Minutemen and the British, I think it was in Concord, right? Where, what was going to be a decisive victory turned into a kind of more confusing thing because of being able to inflict heavy losses on an enemy that's not expecting it. So, yeah, these are the examples you think of. But because there's always heavy reference to popular support, and because of the fact that it usually is a super irregular way to fight, oh, he is trying to get up here. But yeah, because of the fact that it involves popular support and it involves irregular warfare, there are often big parallels drawn between terrorism and between guerrilla warfare. If you think about them, the goals are often the same. If you think about a terror group such as, I don't know, like the IRA is one of the more famous like terror groups that had a political goal that was clear and that some were sympathetic to, right? Like no one's ever been suicide bombed by Al-Qaeda and being like, actually, maybe that is the one true prophet. Maybe I've just been thinking about the wrong religion my whole life, or at least I've never considered that after a terrorist attack. But, one of the things that happens with, say, the IRA, it's a political organization with a terrorist arm, and because of that, the terrorist arm draws support for the rest of it. And it's an example of how guerrilla warfare is not just to be used between two sovereign states. Like, it's not just, oh wait, maybe we did it that time, okay. But it's not just to be used between two sovereign states. You can also use it, you know, between popular support groups and all sorts of other tactics which are designed to demoralize the populace and gain support for your political cause. If not because they agree with it, but also because they might just be like, well, I mean, at least it would make all of the deaths go away. Again, using kind of clever tactics there, using the idea that, you know, like, I guess apathy, and using the fact that people eventually would want to. By the way, I'm still keeping up my fights here. Oh, he's got an ender pearl now. Okay. This is where things get genuinely terrifying for me. This is where things can actually go up in flames. So I'm going to be extra careful at this stage. Just keep that one in mind. Things can go bad for me, and you better believe they might. I'm loving this so much. He's got full diamond armor. I'm not realistically killing him by with death by arrows, but I am frustrating him, and that's what we need. But yeah, the fascinating thing about terrorism versus guerrilla warfare is that terrorism is actually kind of using defensive and offensive at the same time. Whereas guerrilla warfare is something you might use to defend your country, say if you were being invaded by the Nazis, or say if you were being invaded by the whoever, you could use that as like a great defense, right? Also, but terrorism actually kind of works more as an offense. There is a more powerful country, and you can't engage them because you're a small enough group that you can't, so you just make it annoying for them to fight you until they give up. Actually, you know, I think we can get a victory if I just get like 4 arrows in a row and then I knock him off the edge. I need to lure him into a situation where that can happen. Because I was expecting we'd win by attrition, like he'd just get weakened and then give up because he's kind of upset with all of that. But maybe we could, oh, okay, look at this. A few more hits back. Okay, he's resisting. He knows what's happening. But yeah, so the comparison, it does have some like strengths to it, but mostly it's just a way to say like, hey, isn't it annoying when people don't attack military targets but instead attack civilian targets? And it's one of the big moral quandaries that, again, kind of, there's a reason we have Geneva Conventions, is all I'm saying right here, and there's a reason there is such a thing as war crimes, and you don't have to follow war crimes if you're not a sovereign state though, because yeah, yeah, if you didn't sign the Geneva Convention, you don't have to follow it. Actually, which countries didn't sign the Geneva Convention? Oh, every sovereign state on Earth is signatory to at least some of the Geneva Conventions, but some are signatories to different parts of it. But still, it turns out there are lots of Geneva Conventions, and as it just so happens, lots of countries have signed different ones. But yeah, every sovereign state has signed them. But if you're a terrorist group, you don't have to sign any conventions about caring about human lives. You know, what are human lives to you? You care about political causes way more than you care about human lives. You're one of those people, right? So yeah, that's an interesting parallel you can. But the more interesting thing to me is the fact that guerrilla warfare is kind of both a evil and a good depending on your viewpoint. It's a, you know, like, you know, a lot of people might point to like, oh yeah, the Vietnam War, and it allowed the communists to win. And because actually, even as like early back as like Lenin's, you know, like earliest points, he basically, you know, suggested that revolution could be used in that same way. You can be a political force within your own country, and you can make it just so ridiculously annoying that most places won't bother. Also, I'm gonna go in these chests now. He's walked away again. I can resupply while he does it, which is great. Like, oh, there's an ender pearl in here. Why would he not take the ender pearl? Oh, another ender pearl. This guy does not, like, he's not been going in his own chests. Again, because I've been occupying them. I would have figured, though, he would have just given up and realized I didn't have unlimited ammo. But I guess he did not realize that in the slightest. But yeah, a lot of revolutionaries have spoken about how it can be used in that way, and it sounds super negative, like, oh god, what if one day insert ideology you don't like uses this to gain power? Because again, a lot of people picture left-wing groups, and I think I've mentioned that for the most part, you know, like with Lenin and with IRA or something like that. But think about like radical right-wing terror. That is also a thing that happens. A lot of people try to say the current thing the US is radical right. I mean, I don't think that. Okay, he missed. Oh, maybe that's why he hasn't got here already. Maybe he's just missed every time he's tried. Most people think about mutually assured destruction as one of the things that keeps us safe all the time. Like, you can't. War doesn't really happen between major countries. When was the last time we invaded Japan? When was the last time we invaded Russia? I mean, it was a very long time ago. And you know why it was so long ago? Because invading those countries is realistically quite unfeasible. But yeah, a lot of people think of mutually destroyed destruction as being one of the things that keeps the world going, because if you try and attack any country with nukes, they'll just nuke you and you'll die. And that is one of the pillars that is, you know, keeping us from invading most places. Right? I'd hope there are other reasons, but realistically, the cynical part of my brain says that's definitely a big part of it. So we can't invade other countries because of mutually assured destruction, but I think guerrilla warfare is also another big part of it. If Japan did try to invade tomorrow, I'd find that like to be an interesting part of world history, but two, I mean, realistically, how how are they going to? How are they going to hold the United Kingdom, for example? Because again, there would be a lot of groups like that. That was the whole point of the French resistance. The reason that if you look at maps of during World War II of like Nazi Germany and the holding, you'll notice how there's two Frances. There's kind of the occupied France, there's kind of like a free France that was kind of also occupied in its own way, but that's really complex and I still don't really understand it. But the reason, Charles de Gaulle, one of the most famous leaders of post-war France, even Paris's airport is named after him, fun fact. But his whole thing was basically the same, and, we don't think of it as being guerrilla warfare or terrorist infighting, because it was for the good guys. It was against the Nazis, right? But it's the same exact example, and, it's very, very hard to counter it as a strategy. Even right now, there's been so many steps that have been taken to make it kind of feasible to fight back. That's why, one of the reasons why PTSD grows so much with American soldiers recently, it's not just because, it's a mental illness on the rise. It's because a lot of the training of modern militaries is to be trained to shoot first, to think second, and that's going to lead to a lot more accidental firings, which makes it more likely that even if someone's masquerading as a civilian, they can still be, kind of caught for it, right? They can still be, kind of punished. They can still, face consequences for their actions. Also, this guy is never getting me. He's fighting for a really long time, like longer than I would have expected, if I'm being entirely honest with you. Okay, we're gonna just sweep him from the side and attack him that way. Oh, no you don't, no you don't, no you don't, no you don't. Let's not do this, man. Let's not do this. Okay, so this is where I jump down. No, the end of... Oh! Well, maybe this whole video is mute. And to finish my point, just like that, as you can see, perfectly what I expected. I definitely didn't play 24 minutes and make one mistake. No, I was proving how the counter to it is always trying to be developed. There are so many things we're trying to do, such as training people to, to shoot, but such as, kind of training the other people to be the other, that it's okay to totally go into. And these are the things which allow it to be countered. And this is something I guess you can kind of take your own opinion on, because there are going to be parts of the world at some point that are going to be unstable and that might be helped with some some global intervention, but if, they use guerrilla warfare, that kind of stops that intervention. So is it good to have counter-guerrilla warfare so that countries can be invaded? I mean, it's hard to argue in favor of invading a sovereign state for something they haven't done to another country, but also, when situations arise, it's very easy to get people scared, and then all of a sudden on board with said wars, such as, I don't know, pick anywhere in the Middle East today, right? That's, whenever you want to pick about a war, it's always like, yep, mention that place over there. But I hope this video taught you, if nothing else, that you don't have to be stronger in a conflict to win, you just have to be more annoying. And I think that probably applies to, I don't know, some real life situation. I think it is applied to at least 1 or 2 school fights I've been in, and yeah, I would say maybe it helps you out that one too. But yeah, you just gotta remember. And yeah, if there's one thing you took from this video, I hope it's simply that you don't need to be stronger in a conflict to win, you just have to be more annoying. And I'm gonna be honest, I think that's helped me with at least one school fight during my days, and maybe it helps you with one too, although I guess the easiest thing there would be avoiding conflict altogether, but that's a whole separate point for a whole separate video. Today, I just wanted to kind of point out that, yeah, there is a whole different form of warfare that makes it possible for ridiculously lopsided things to happen, and that hopefully isn't a thing in the future, but might be if war does become a more realistic option, something we should all hope is probably not going to be the case. But, who knows for sure. Also, I want to clarify before the very end of the video here, this was just kind of like an introduction, something I find fascinating when I study history of any form like that. I don't like that I have to clarify this, but whenever I talk about anything that's either political or history related, one person's like, this doesn't agree with my viewpoint. They'll say something ridiculous like, you didn't agree with this, and oh, you said that Lenin wasn't the savior of this or that. Like, I don't know, people take the most tiny points and try and use it as the biggest thing of offense against them, because only their viewpoint can win and only their thing like that. And I just want to say, yeah, this isn't an expert's opinion. This is literally an introduction to a subject you might not have thought anything about before now. And also, it's a guide to help you win in Skywars. So hopefully, if you're that guy, take it a bit less seriously. I'm not saying I'm immune from criticism. I'm just saying that obviously this video is not meant to be a 20-page thesis. It's rather a Minecraft video that taught you a bit of history. And I hope you enjoyed it in that level. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, because I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.